Hey guys, this is NUSensei. This month marks 5 years since I started archery. It's only been 5 years. I think my journey has been a little different than most people. And it's been a very interesting journey. Highs and lows and struggles and successes. And I wanted to take this chance to just reflect on how I started as an archer, where I came from, why I did it, and some of the things I've seen along the way. I'm here right now in our clubhouse, and the fact that we even have a clubhouse is probably the highlight of my career. And I hope more things come from this, but it hasn't always been like this. It hasn't always been easy. It never is easy, in fact. So it's been a very surprising journey, and I just want to start from how it all began. I was never the sort of person who liked sports. When I was younger, I was never encouraged to do sports. It was always study. So I never really found much interest in doing physical activity. And that was just the person I was, and I wasn't really into that sort of thing. So as I grew older, I just felt that desire, that craving to do something physical, to get running around or doing something with my body. When I started teaching years ago, 8 years ago, the first thing I did was play indoor soccer with the other teachers. And I've never played soccer either, and I'm pretty bad at it. But I just wanted to run around and do something, and that was actually a really big part of my early career, was just bond with people, meet people, and just have a bit of fun. And at some point, a few years ago, one of my friends pointed out that there was an archery club next to my workplace. And I didn't believe him because I couldn't really find it. And then I checked Google Maps and there it was, literally across the road from my workplace. So we dropped by one week, and with our course, we did our come and try program. The coach ran us through the basics, our basic recurve equipment, and I liked it. That's basically it. I liked the feeling of trying to do something right, and the moment I started trying archery, it was just like doing one thing right. That's my personality, doing one thing really, really, really well, and that's how I stuck onto it. One of my first memories is trying to figure out how to put the arm guard on. It's a strange elastic band or hook, and just trying to get it around and get it on your arm, and finally it'll stay on. I'm pretty sure this is the exact arm guard I used back then. And then there were these really flimsy, small calf hair finger tabs, which would never feel right. I remember when I got my first bow, I literally, the first thing I bought and I really wanted to get was a decent finger tab. So it was actually my first video on YouTube on archery, was comparing finger tabs, because to me this was the biggest deal. Years later, I would learn that I was right. Having a good hook and a good finger tab would be essential to your archery technique. So I was onto something there. Our quiver was a rotor cone, and with a bunch of mismatched arrows. And I'm pretty sure this was the first bow I used. This is an 18-pound bow. It's made by Heron Bows. And if you've never heard of the brand, I can understand. This bow was with the club, I believe, the 1960s. The club's been around since the 1940s, and a lot of the original equipment was we still use. We've enhanced it since then, but this definitely was one of the original bows that I used. Man, when you spend years shooting a 40-pound Olympic recurve, shooting an 18-pound bare bow is so relaxing. Finding archery was really important to me at the time. 5 years ago, my then fiance walked out on me. And it's funny how a lot of people I've come across in archery have had similar stories of broken marriages, broken relationships, and archery seems to unify us for some reason. But 5 years ago, that was probably the biggest shock in my life. That's a whole story in itself, but long story short, it was a long-term relationship, 5 years together, and it just ended in flames. I found I had a lot of time, a lot of emptiness left over, and as a lot of you probably imagine, it's not something you can bounce back from really easily, especially with that much time, that much emotion and time and money and all that invested into your future. So with that, pulled from underneath me, I had like nothing to fall back on. So archery was kind of bridged that gap for me. I started archery only a few weeks after my relationship ended, and it took a long time for me to settle like psychologically and emotionally. Archery, I know a lot of people, archery is a very relaxing sport. To me, archery wasn't relaxing. Archery gave me time to think. And there were many times I'd be going out there on the range and just standing there, just like meditating or reflecting or contemplating on things that could be, things that could have been. And it's very hard for me. My first few years were a lot of times just time thinking. And it took a long time for me to get over, that past and move forward. And in some ways, archery has become part of my life. And because of that, parts of my life have come into archery. One of the factors in this was my anxiety and my depression. Part of the reason why my relationship broke apart years ago was my partner did suffer from anxiety and depression, a lot of other things too. And I spent a lot of emotion and time trying to balance out and trying to be supportive. And at the time, I really came to neglect my own needs and my own circumstances. As an archer, I found that a lot of the bad days would affect me differently or affect me deeper than others. I know a lot of people will go, "Oh, you're having a bad day, just come back tomorrow, shoot better." But for someone suffering from anxiety, that's kind of not what you say to someone. I really found as I did more archery and as I progressed and as I didn't progress, I felt that I was brooding more and more over my flaws. And when you have a lifetime of looking at mistakes and feeling small and insignificant and incapable, these things just keep coming back. I never really competed in anything. I never really succeeded in the same way that someone would bring home a medal or a trophy. So when I felt that I should be doing something well and I wasn't, that really got to me. There were several times I was out there on that concrete slab. We do a benchmark, 36 arrows. You should be getting this much, and one day I got like 100 points below what I should have, and that rocked me. I was having a pretty good bit of form, and suddenly I shot like shit. And I cried. And I was sitting there out there, with my head in my hands, and I just couldn't put myself together. It was just like the expectation, that burden of expectation of having to do well, that really hit me hard. That was one of my big turning points, and I'm not sure if I really came back from that. I still have that expectation. It's one of the things which has been undermining me a lot is I should be doing a lot better than I currently am, and I'm not. So that was one of my biggest shock factors. And again, for me, because archery is now part of my life, a lot of my flaws and my anxieties come into archery. It's taken a long time to stabilize, both from my previous marital failures and as an archer developing and training, competing. I find it takes me 5 years to get at anything. So I think this is the point where I have a hold on things. Things are starting to get good, I guess, and things are starting to work out. The hardest thing for me in my archery career would have to be being a president. It's really not a glamorous job. I mean, this is me having just done archery for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and we just ran out of members. We had like 3 or 4 people left in the books. A lot of people had left, a lot of people had expired. The club was in its zenith, really. It was at the very end of its heyday, having been moved, and people weren't sticking around. And like we had to sign documents, and the club literally had no president. The last person that was president, I don't remember who he was. He just disappeared for a few months, and things were just kind of going on autopilot since then. And it was out there on that concrete slab where we had probably like the last possible like board meeting, and there were like 2 people left, and someone had to be president. So unanimously, I was dubbed in. Yeah, so I was nominated president and unanimously voted in. I was told 2 things. One was I had to sign these documents, and 2, the fate of the club was in my hands. That was not in my job description. So I don't know what I got myself into, and again, like, you know, I didn't think that I was an athlete. I didn't think archery would be my thing, and I was never the sort of person who would like volunteer to do positions of responsibility. I'm no president. I've never done sort of thing before. So suddenly having a club under my name was a huge, like, you know, burden. You think, like, again, like I came out of a bad relationship, so suddenly having a new relationship with a sports club, that was a little shock for me. And the first thing that happened was, like the next week, the council called me up on my mobile and said, you know, like if you like your paperwork's overdue, these things are unpaid, we're closing you down, basically. So yeah, it wasn't exactly an easy transition, and like I never really saw myself as a long-term like leader. I thought that I might be a caretaker, just stabilise the club for the next few months or years, and hope somebody else will take over. I'm still president. One of my biggest regrets, a personal failing, if you want to call it that, happened this spot. I'd say it was the moment where I crossed the line from being selfish to being an asshole, and that's very hard to say because you know, so for some people being an asshole is more natural than others. But we were having a club competition, and one of my members was having a really hard time, and she wanted to walk off the line. She wanted to stop the competition and do some practice, close distance, which is for a normal training day. That's to be expected. You don't shoot terribly all day. You have to try and address your errors. I told her that it was bad form to leave the shooting line in a competition, and I said that, and it was probably the biggest dick move I've done as a shooter, as a president, and it was wrong. I felt it was wrong. I don't know why I said it, but I felt it was kind of personal. I needed this competition to run. I needed people to stay here. So there were like 2 or 3 of us. So if one of us left, then that meant that the whole competition kind of fall apart. And that was, to me, it made sense at the time. But in hindsight, which is a horrible thing to say, you just don't ever do that to your own members. You don't put people down. You don't make them feel bad for not doing things. You encourage people to do things, and I didn't do that. But what haunts me is that, well, you know, as people leave when they don't enjoy themselves. They leave archery. They leave the whole sport when they're not having fun. And this member left. No, not because of this. There were other reasons, you know, moving house and change of work and change of study, and injury as well. But in the back of my mind, there's this one thing that I said to me, and I still think it was a contributing factor. And it's just something that you carry with you, especially as a club president. You know, especially with small sports clubs, people who don't stay, people who leave. You almost take it personally because it's like you failed to do something, like you didn't support them, or you couldn't do something to help them stay. And that's something which plagues clubs everywhere, especially board members, club presidents. It's a hard life because not only do you have to do your own thing, but you have to support everybody else. And there's going to be dozens, if not hundreds of other members. And sometimes it is kind of thankless, but you know, you just have to focus and and keep positive. When the club moved to this site around 2002, and this is before my time, this is what we got. Having read through the club history, there was a lot of empty promises about having a clubhouse, a pavilion built, and it's something which is brought up every now and then, but really, what do we get as a club? We went from a pretty decent establishment down by the river to this shed. This was our clubhouse, I guess. Apart from the concrete slab, this was our main storage place, and there's not much you can do. You can't shoot in there, you can't meet in there. It's really just a garden shed. And I guess I'm being a little luxurious here, because I know some clubs have it worse. But it's really hard for a club to grow when you don't have the room or the space to be a club. And I think one of the most important things is to have a clubhouse. And we've got clubs around here with fantastic pavilions, and we got this. It was this one space. One of the hard things with running this is that it's this strange loop where to get a bigger facility you need more members or more numbers, but to get more numbers you need a big facility. So it's like this dead end where it's really hard to get out of. Being part of the club committee, or in any regard, is probably one of the hardest things someone can do. A lot of us who shoot at clubs are very lucky, because the clubs are already running quite well. You've got a very strong committee, great organisation, lots of volunteers. All these things make shooting at a club very enjoyable. But when you have to build it up from scratch or rebuild from scratch, that's where things get a little difficult for us. And again, part of the problem was not having a strong committee. We had one person doing all the paperwork and the money, and one person doing everything else, and one person doing all the coaching related things. And I think what the last couple of years have been the very, very hardest, because our club secretary, treasurer, our person of many roles just wasn't around, and it was very hard to get things done. Paperwork, money, spending, and a lot of that came down to me. As a club president, you have to take on the roles which people don't take on. You have to make things work. If you don't, then things fall apart. And again, combining all my previous recent experiences, that was tremendously stressful on my system. Last year, and this point last year during winter, was probably the bottom-most point of my archery career. Probably the closest I was to leaving the sport. Again, this is where we saw a drop in the members. We saw, a very low amount of participation. I did state championships. I've done previous things, but there's no continuity. There's no continuation of that drive. I find it really hard to motivate people to stay, motivate people to shoot at competitions, or even just do rounds here. And I'm not complaining about our club members. I'm just someone who needs that gratification or needs that support from someone. I found it really hard to find that here, and that really put me down. I spent more and more time running the Come and Try program or helping other archers, and not really putting time to my own shooting. I just felt like I didn't want to anymore. Just every time I came to the club, there was something different. I had to handle this issue, or run this bit of documentation, or work with the council, or work against the council in some cases. Things like repairing the facilities, getting this shed was probably one of the biggest things that we got. And all that sapped a lot of my time and energy. And my turning point was, there were many times where I would bring not want to train. I might work. I'll work so close that this is so easy to shoot and train after hours. But I'll be so tired and bummed out from being at school all the time, and then coming here and trying to deal with club issues, that I didn't want to come here and train. And sometimes I didn't bring my stuff at all. I knew that on this particular day it would be all coaching, all training, and I didn't bother bringing my gear. But I think the turning point for me was when I did bring my gear, that's one day I remember I drove. I actually said, I'm going to drive here. I went from home, brought my stuff, came here, sat in the car, and then went straight home. There was just no drive, there's no motivation whatsoever to even unpack my gear, to even think about shooting. I had that complete feeling of emptiness. There was just no satisfaction, no happy feeling for doing archery. And that's when you know that something's gone completely wrong. Archery should be fun, you should be enjoying it in some way, and for me it was enjoying the challenge, getting better, that sort of thing, and then suddenly just like not wanting to shoot. And that was the case for like 6 months last year. That was probably the hardest time. It took me a long time to come back from that, and my coach wasn't very happy. I know that for sure. But it's like I just completely lost that heart for archery, and I spent many months questioning whether I still had the passion for archery. The whole responsibility thing really got to me, and when it came down to the end of my second year as president, I didn't really want to do it anymore. That was it. I wasn't sure if I had that energy or that passion for one more year, and I was talked into one more year. I didn't feel like I had I wanted to focus on my own shooting. I wanted to rekindle that love for archery, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do one more year. I was talked into it, and I accepted. It was a matter of fact that I would do so, and I think that's kind of what was painful, grappling with the idea that people expect me to do these things, and often it's not as fulfilling or as thankful. But on the plus side, I mean, over the past 3 years, we have the clubhouse. That's a big win. We've got a strong committee. We've got more people now than ever. We've gone from 3 people to 35 people. So in 2 or 3 years, that's a pretty good growth rate. We've got stability. We've got people in the right places, and I think organisationally, that's been one of my unique successes. I mean, on the personal level, I've been doing very well at all. I mean, I don't have any trophies, I don't do any championships, but to be able to do this, to come here and set up a place where people can come from the community and try archery, that's probably been the biggest success that anyone can claim. And it isn't just me. I mean, I think the last year, especially with the right people in the right place, that's really helped out a lot. I think my advice for anyone who is building a club or struggling to make it work is have the right people. The people are the most important thing. You're important as well, but if you're the only one doing things, and this is for any sports club, I mean, anyone who runs a club with small numbers will know there are usually 1 or 2 people who do everything, and those people are your lifelines. But it's not healthy for a club. A club needs everyone to be involved. You need to encourage more people to come to meetings and make decisions and make things work. And the last couple of years have been just incredible. People have been doing hands-on work, building targets, running tournaments, taking over training courses. The more people applying their unique skill sets, are making the club grow together. That's been probably the proudest thing I would say I've seen, is seeing people spend the time outside of their obligatory Saturday mornings to come and do extra things for the club, and that's what really makes it work. 5 years after holding my first bow, that's quite a milestone. Again, considering that I never thought I'd do any sport. Archery, I'm not naturally a talented athlete. I didn't pick up archery very easily. 5 years, and I've built up a very solid foundation for a lot of things. I did things that I didn't think I would do. Doing sport and competing and winning, third place trophies. That's something I didn't think I would ever do. And I think doing 5 years of anything is a great milestone. When I reached 5 years as a teacher, that was like the winning moment. I survived 5 years. I survived my newbie years, and now I feel confident and I'm ambitious and I'm entering my prime as a teacher, and I'm feeling great about it. This is my 5th year as an archer, and my form is settling really nicely. I'm starting to feel more comfortable in competitions. My scores suck at the moment, but like I feel like I've had the right foundations and the right perseverance to set up like positive goals for the future. And like especially looking at archery in general, like my club work, my work on YouTube, things are really like starting to come together. The club's growing, my channel's growing. I'm getting more partnership offers from businesses and companies, and that's the sort of thing which I didn't think could happen 5 years ago. Those first steps, you know, coming here and coming back here every single week, that's been incredible. It's really helped me grow as a person. Nowadays, again, like, as you know, I'm an instructor. I compete at low level archery, but more important for me, I found myself in a position where I can share my interest, my hobby, my passion with thousands of people around the world. And it's been so meaningful to hear from people who otherwise would not have experienced archery the same way I have. For me, the biggest overall success has been seeing people enjoy the sport. I mean, this is me as a teacher, me as a coach, me as a person. I just like people learning things. Archery to me has been something I've learned. Again, I'm not talented in archery. I'm not that great in archery. I know it'll take a long time for me to become decent, and that's something I'm willing to put aside. And it's been a huge accomplishment to come this far in every regard. To see people learn things as an individual and to see other people learn things too. That's probably been my biggest engagement with the sport and with the community in general. That's what's made me happiest. And when people share their stories of their successes and their struggles, it makes me feel better that I can do something to help you, whether you're at my club or whether you're halfway across the world. It's that connection which I feel, especially in things like archery, can be very hard to come across because it is so individualistic and fragmented. So I do thank you as a community, as viewers, for being part of my journey, and I hope that you continue to be part of my journey. And for those of you who are going through archery right now, going through your struggles and going through your pains, I just want to say that, look, you will never know what opportunities can open up for you as long as you try. As long as you put yourself out there and you give it your best go, you will open doorways that you never knew existed. After 5 years, the skills I've learned, the mentalities I've adopted, the lifestyle I've grown into, the people I've met, all these things have been incredibly invaluable. They're irreplaceable. I have no regrets about doing archery and going through the trials and tribulations that I've been through. And while my journey may be different to yours in many regards, I think at some point you can relate to something I've been through. And that's really what this is about. It's about sharing these experiences and knowing that you are not alone, that there is hope, that there is something you can achieve and be proud of at the very end. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. This is NUSensei. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.